31. And as far as roll call for the board, we've got myself, which is Joe Malio. We've got Sandy Gill, we've got Ron Alexander. We've got our superintendent, of course, who is our moderator while I was listening to everybody. And welcome, Dr. Remendini. I'm glad that you're able to attend. And so we've got Mr. Gorman, Mrs. Moran, and Mrs. Julie Case on the line as well. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's right. All right. Thanks, everybody. So being that we have this pandemic going on, we're obviously all separate and in different locations. So bear with us while we try to get through this fun night. Should be short. Although I'm going to let you know we're also having this live streamed, and that link was on our website, and I'm not sure if it was on Facebook, but Director Jeremy Corliss was taking care of that, and I appreciate you, Jeremy. Thanks for doing that. And I will let you know that one of the components to our meeting tonight that's going to be missing is our call to the public. So there is no call to the public this evening. So if we do have anybody in the public listening, everything that you're going to hear tonight will appear no later than April 27th on our website in the form of our typed out minutes. So with that being said, I'm going to entertain that we do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all join me, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty for all. Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, I'm just going to try one more thing. Randy, have you gotten on here yet? Do we have?
President Malio, just wanted to mention to you that I am texting back and forth with Susan Webster, and she is having problems unmuting. And so I'm sending a message to Jeremy, and hopefully we can get that going.
Okay, I just got her message as well. All right, thanks, Susan, for being here. And if you have anything to say, just raise your hand and nobody can see you. Just kidding. Anyway, so if we can get an adoption to the agenda, please.
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
All right, so we've got Sandy making a motion, Ron second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so item number 2 is informational recognitions and proclamations. Does anybody from the board have anything to bring up at this point? And what we'll do is we'll take a couple of seconds longer for Susan in case she has something and wants to text it out.
Yes,
This is Randy.
Yes.
This is Randy. Can you hear me?
Okay. So now we have everybody on here now, Lynn. Susan's unmuted, she's here, and Randy just spoke up. So
Yeah, I Googled and figured out how to unmute.
Okay.
Joe, yes, I would like to say something.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I would like to acknowledge all the teachers and the staff and the volunteers that have worked so hard to get books and internet connections and food during this crazy virus time, and I just want to acknowledge all that they've done.
Very good. I echo that, Sandy. Thanks for bringing that up. Anybody else have anything? Okay. All right, so our next item, folks, is the consent agenda. Does anybody from the board need anything pulled before we take action on that short agenda?
No.
Okay, and we can entertain a motion, please.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Thank you,
second
Sandy.
it.
That was Randy?
Yes, I'll second it.
All right, thanks, Randy. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Item number 4, action item number 1, or letter A, is request for approval of financial reports presented by Mrs. Erin Johnson. And Erin, you're on here, is that correct?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. I missed your voice. I didn't see- I didn't see you.
We are still trending well, as you can see, doing well on all of our financials as projected. I'm hoping that we'll see even a little bit better of a trend through the end of the year in savings on electricity and some supplies. And so with that, our budget balances are positive. We are in compliance, and there are no surprises to the best of my knowledge.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate that. Hearing that, can we get a motion?
I'll make
The motion to approve the financial report as submitted.
Thank you, Randy.
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. All right, item B under action items is request for approval of the Wickenburg High School graduation and 8th grade promotion plan. What I'd like to do is go individually with the principal, and we'll start with Mrs. Lorman, as he's got more options on his table here. So Mark, if you want to give us a brief of how you arrived at the options. I understand you had a couple different groups and people in this, so if you can take it away for us.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope everyone's doing well. We had a committee that we formed approximately 2 weeks ago to take a look at our graduation ceremony and some possibilities as alternatives should we need to do that. The committee consisted of several students, some staff members, parents, community, as well as admin. We met on a couple of different occasions and explored some different possibilities to get what you see there this evening. And so I'll run through what the various options were that we came up with, as well as any information that might go along with each option. So as you can see, option A was a regular ceremony that we were continuing with on May 22nd, should we be able to do that. To make that determination, we put a deadline of April 30th as a determination date, knowing that we, at that point, can either move forward with graduation on the 22nd or would need to shift that to option B. Option B is a similar ceremony that we would host no later than the 19th of June. Once again, it's no different than what we typically would have at that particular point because it's outside of our teachers' contracted windows, where we would ask the teachers that were available and could be there that they participate on that particular night. The date that we picked for making that determination was on or before May 28th. Then if at that point we were able to or not able to move forward with a graduation ceremony, we would move to option C. Option C was one that we discussed within the committee that incorporated the town, and it was an idea that had come from several that worked there with the town, as well as some discussion points that were made with our committee, and it was to use the airport as a alternative venue and create more of a parade-like atmosphere for students should we not be able to get together and have a more graduation-like ceremony. Once again, the committee was pretty set on making sure that we got through whatever it is that we did sometime in the middle part of June. When we looked at some different options extending this into later June, there were concerns that had come up regarding weather, heat, people leaving to go on vacation, some different reasons that were expressed. So we've kind of set some dates in terms of these different options, and most of them fall in the, I'd say, earlier 2/3 of the month of June as far as what we were looking for. And that included this, although we don't have a specific date necessarily that we were looking at or targeting for that. Some of the details that we did kind of talk through, which obviously would have to be hashed out and really worked through at a deeper level, were using the airport, closing the airport for approximately an hour so that we could host this, utilizing the runway as an option for vehicles to taxi up and down in front of spectators that were in vehicles sitting on sort of that side. I'm not sure what it's exactly called there, but the area along the side of the I guess it's kind of the taxiway. Some of the concerns expressed by the town as well as us is ensuring the social distancing guidelines, whatever those were, would have to be met for us to accomplish this. Because of the type of event, we would like to continue to have things like speeches, the presentation of the class, acceptance of the class, those sort of things that went on, but we wanted to hold them or actually record them and play them back so the recordings could take place without us having to all be on one stage, share a mic, do things like that. Essentially what was discussed was we would have vehicles that would start at one point at a staging point, would drive the length of the runway, drive back. Each graduate would be in one of the vehicles, possibly with a family member. The names would be broadcast, and then there would be a transition for that vehicle to leave, because part of our concern was a congregation of vehicles at the end where kids possibly were interacting with one another at that point. Of course, at this point, we don't know what that's going to look like with respect to social guidance, restrictions, recommendations. And so part of what we also were discussing was the need to really kind of have that clearance from the state, from the CDC, from the departments of health and so forth, that gave us sort of an all clear for this sort of an activity to take place. Finally, if we were unable to determine that that was going to be possible on or before June 4th, we would jump to the final option, and that was a virtual graduation where all elements were pre-recorded, and things like student speeches, the speeches or the different elements that are typically in our graduation ceremony would be pre-recorded, put together in a presentation, and presented in that way. And that essentially sort of outlines what we have for our 4 options for our high school. Are there any questions on those?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but I want to try to keep this as clean as we can. Let's start at end. Randy, do you have any questions or comments for Mark?
I have none.
Okay, thank you. Ron, do you have anything for Mark?
I do have a couple questions. One, I know for option 1, you said on or before April 30th. Do you think that, and I know that these latest executive orders were, through, initially they were through the 30th of April. Do you think they're going to make a decision before the 30th of April on what the next move would be?
Yes, good question. I think by that point in time, what we would know is what sort of restrictions are going to maintain. I know right now we're in sort of a lockdown or a stay-at-home order, and on the 30th that expires. But based on information that we've been receiving, and they received through the town as well that we had discussed, they feel like it's going to be a gradual release. And we want to maintain the potential for having that ceremony on the 22nd, although it may be a stretch. But we felt like by the 30th, we'd be able to know that we can or can't move forward with that ceremony, and then start at that point looking at other options like what we have there with B.
Okay, I would just say, you know how the government works, you know, they may not actually make a decision until, you know, and broadcast it until the 30th, that maybe, you know, use May 1st or something like that, you know, to have some flexibility in there without, you know, just stretching it out for weeks, obviously. But anyway, that was just my thought on that one, that maybe,
Hey, Ron, it's Susan. I had the same question.
okay, so, well, just give it another day or two, just, you know, to give the government time to act if they're not, so you don't tie yourself to this date, you know, it's hard and fast only, okay.
Okay.
The next one, I was gonna, what's the approval process for use of the runway itself? Not this, I'm not talking about from, CDC, all that kind of stuff, but just for the use of the runway.
We got into that. Vince Lartex was part of our committee and was one of them that had brought much of this information to us. Essentially, the process itself would be that, you know, once we've determined that we're going to move forward with that, we're going to have several meetings to start looking at all those details. There are several things that they have outlined that we could or could not do, or we would need to have in place and be careful of up there. But things like coordinating shutdown of the runway, there's some items that they said that we could use that are there within the town, speaker systems, potentially one that would broadcast via a radio, so vehicles would be able to tune into a certain station and hear. There are a lot of specific details that we would have to get to, like where do we stage them, which they have a lot there, how far apart would vehicles need to be, how many people would we need to have at that lot where we were helping them maintain their social distancing. Once they start the parade out and down, and, you know, ensuring that we again have vehicles that are continuously moving. There are certain lights, the runway lights, that are extremely expensive, and ensuring that we have parking attendants that are helping to guide folks as they line up along runways. There are little details like that, which we did not get into all of those on our during our meeting, but they were some that we talked about. From the town, there were no costs or anything of that sort that were discussed. The town is very open to trying to help support us in pulling off something if it is possible. But again, even coming from the town and from their perspective, they don't want to create a situation that is unsafe for graduates or spectators. And so there were certain criteria that we would need to meet with respect to those restrictions that are currently in place to be able to allow for something like this to happen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have no other questions.
All right,
Thank you.
Sandy?
I had the same as Ron and Susan. I thought April 30th, we needed to extend that a few days into May. As far as the determination, because I agree, you know, if they're not going to make a decision, and like we said, you know, the government moves a little slowly, and changes their mind on an hourly basis. So, yeah, my thought was the same thing, that April 30th needs to be extended a few days into May.
Okay.
So just in addressing that, Dr. Howard or Dr. Carlson, do we need to, I can make the change obviously here. I'm looking at the calendar. The 30th was a Thursday, and to give it a couple of days, would we want to move that date to the 4th, just so it passes through that weekend and to that Monday to make a decision on or before the 4th?
I believe that would be advisable.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm going to formally make that change on the graduation promotion memo that was submitted to you.
All right, thanks, Mark. Sandy, do you have anything else for Mark?
No, that was mainly it. I was just and then I was visualizing this airport thing and whatever, and I was just wondering if there, to do that, but if there was a better place to do it than the airport. So it wouldn't feel so rushed. I don't know, just my thought.
Okay. Susan?
Yeah, obviously this was a proposal that we had come up with respect to that. There's a lot of logistics and details and so forth to come from that. And one of those things that we didn't want to start really going down that road quite yet. But if there is something else that we want to entertain, definitely something that, Dr. Howard and I can discuss more about.
It's just a thought.
All right, thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Mark. Susan, did you have anything other than that date issue?
Yeah, so I did want to just ask the question, do we really want to let students drive through the airport? I don't know that you'd be able to hear their names or anything if they're driving through the airport. I just wanted to bring that up because I know some of their cars are loud.
Right.
So I just thought it might be an option for them to walk through at 6 feet apart or something. I don't know.
Golf carts.
Well, and with that too, I know it's really hard for Sue Baker to kind of get them all organized anyway. And if they're in vehicles trying to get organized, that might be even more difficult. I do understand the precautionary measures and whatnot. And I understand too that we may be in phase 1 of the opening up of Arizona when this might occur, and that could potentially lend itself to parents determining whether or not students could be involved. That kind of thing could come up between now and then. So just throwing some other thoughts out there that I had.
All right, thank you.
And that's it.
Any other
Susan?
questions?
I think we're good. Appreciate it, Mark.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. So we will go to Julie Cates down at Festival Foothills. If you want to let us know about your committees and that type of thing.
Sure. Good evening. Festival Foothills, we have a promotions committee every year. And so with that committee, we had some staff members and a parent. And what we looked at first was option A, going forth with our regular ceremony on May 19th and making the determination. We had put the same date as April 30th, depending on what the guidelines are. If we can have that many people in one setting for our promotion as it's indoors. If we're not able to do that, option B was our delayed regular ceremony, and it would be in June. And we would wait until May 18th to see if the social distancing and stay-at-home orders are lifted. And if that is lifted, then we would go ahead with a delayed ceremony on June 2nd. And students would attend. We did put in there that if it's still recommended that they need masks and gloves, we would make sure that we would have them do that. We would make sure our seats were seated 3 to 6 feet apart. We had our regular ceremony, it's just at a different date. And then if we're, the other option was option C, which is the virtual promotion, which would be pre-recorded. And we would work with IT. When our committee met, we also had Adam Bubb attend because we wanted to talk to him about what our options were to record that. And so we would still have the welcome and address, our student speakers, and then we would also fill out permission slips for our students because we would be releasing this video and we want to make sure it's okay that they have their name and photograph shared out with everybody else. And then what we would do, in addition to the recorded ceremony, which we would release, on May 21st. We would also do an outdoor activity, because one of the things we talked about as a committee was the pre-recorded is nice, but they wanted something that the students could be involved in. And so our last bullet is an additional outdoor activity that is appropriate and compliant with CDC and county guidelines. And one of the things we talked about was doing a parade on the main street through our area and working with the Buckeye Police Department to do that. We would have 39 students participating in that. And I know when I talked with Sergeant Weeks for our previous parade, he said, if you have more than 15 cars, you would just need to be on the main road. And then the last thing on our plan was, as a committee, they were recommending option C.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome.
Randy, do you have anything to go on that one?
Do you have,
No, I'm fine. My dog has a comment.
Maybe you can mute that?
Come on.
Hey,
We're
Randy.
also heard that, Sandy.
Randy?
no comment.
All right. Ron?
The other thing I would say, I would just recommend the date, April 30th be changed to the same as the high school, May 4th.
Okay.
Agreed. Okay. All right. And Sandy, do you have anything for Julie?
No, I heard the changing the date to May 4th,
Okay.
which I
And
agree
how
with.
about- Yeah, I do too. Susan?
I just want to say, I think the additional outdoor activity with the students is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So that way they have something to participate in besides having a
Right.
And I was
Okay.
just going to add to, I mean, part of the reason the committee recommended option C was because our delays would be in June, and we didn't know how many of our students would be, we don't know what's going to happen, you know, if they're going to be in town or what would exactly happen.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Too many unknowns here, but we'll get it done. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
And Jennifer Moran, can you tell us about your committees and how you guys came to your decisions?
Absolutely. Thank you, President Malia. I, like Julie Case, also have a promotion committee, and then we also have a parent committee who hosts the post-promotion dance or activity within there. So I brought together both groups, members from both groups, to come up with promotion proposals in light of COVID-19. Sticking to what the high school and festival did with April 30th, we are more than willing to look at the May 4th for having a traditional regular ceremony scheduled for May 20th for 8th graders to promote. With all of the variables, recognizing that we may have to be extremely flexible within that, we looked at what happens if we need to do a delayed regular ceremony, as promotion is an important tradition in Wickenburg. Within that, the committee also recognizes that may look a little different if we have to have chairs spaced differently. The parents on the committee also recognize not having the normal teachers, as they would be off contract, and are looking at going, okay, well, what students do we, what order? It wouldn't have the same pomp and circumstance. So the committee was a little concerned with option B, as they're used to retired Lisa Cole's very
structured ceremony and how it looks and those types of things. They also talked about how some of the other student speeches may not be able to happen because they do that as part of the school day and one of the 8th grade traditions. And so they wanted to look at some of those other options of what could they do differently, as this is such a different situation that they're facing. And so they talked about having a virtual ceremony with things recorded and giving the students a chance to dress up in their promotion outfits, to say their first name, and to have it be that photo that the student wants and the parent wants, to showcase them and provide them with the cloud link to it so they could share it with family members who may not normally be able to attend due to traveling restrictions, finances, and those types of things. And then the parents on the committee really like the idea of doing something after that piece with option C. 2 of the committee members are really involved in the roping community, and they really wanted to try to reach out to the different roping arenas to see what other social distance, car park, drive-in, almost even like the Halloween costume walk system where they all get to see each other, because the parents always take over for that end of the night celebration. So they really like the idea of see where they got to continue to experience the Google forum that they're all getting to be experts at, and then taking over the piece within that component. So, you know, they want promotion, but they also want to be flexible and give the kids something different, as this is also so different.
I agree. Appreciate that, Jennifer. So Randy, anything for Jennifer?
I no comments. Thank you.
Okay. Ron?
No, I don't have anything further. Thank you.
Okay. Sandy?
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right. Susan?
Well, I just got a question for both Julie and Jennifer. It says on that the committee is recommending option C. Does that mean that you guys want to decide that now, or you still want to wait?
Susan, my committee wanted to be able to share their voice in it because they knew they wouldn't be able to attend the board meeting and have their voice heard. So they wanted to put what their recommendation was in case you guys had any questions for them of what did they feel would be a good option.
And I was going to say, Susan, with my committee, I mean, obviously option A is always the preferred, but if they had a choice between B and C, they would rather do C.
Okay.
Is that, this is Ron, is that because of the date in June that the promotion ceremony be held? Is that the primary reason they would rather go with the option C?
Yes. Well, because if they go in June, they don't know what the attendance will be, or, you know, with staff and students. And so they know that if we do option C, we can get that recorded, like we would know by, I mean, we would know like that week we could record it and get it ready so we could release it on the 21st and do a parade on the 21st.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Julie, do you want to make option C option B actually, and then go with that? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because if that's what the committee would prefer to do, then let's do it.
Right. I didn't know if we wanted to go with the delayed, if we needed to do a ceremony if possible. Because that's why we put the date, like if we needed to offer the ceremony as a possibility, we put down that, I think we said May 18th. We would do, you know, we would go with option B, but if on May 18th we couldn't, then we would go ahead and plan for June 2nd. It's, you know, we're just trying to make sure we had that in place if we needed to do a delayed ceremony.
Okay. Are you done, Susan?
Yes.
Okay, I guess my question is, I'm looking at this, and if you had the delayed ceremony, it would be June 2nd?
Mm-hmm.
So it really isn't, that's like a week
2 weeks.
later. In 2 weeks, okay.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks later.
Okay. And if you have the virtual one, you're gonna have it on the day that you would have normally had it?
What we would do is we would record that week so that we could release it by the last day of school. And we also thought if we did it that way and we had like a parade with students in the neighborhood, then the other students, you know, and their families could come out because it would be like a celebration of the end of the school year.
Right.
And recognizing our 8th graders.
Okay, so the virtual one would be on May 21st as planned.
May
Well, it's a
19th
couple days
is
later.
their graduation. Yeah, May 19th, Sandy, would be their graduation.
Oh, sorry, 19th. I'm
Yeah.
thinking high school. Okay, May 19th.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Julie, I mean, I think the way you worded it is fine. It's just if you get to May 18th and social distancing orders are lifted, then you're kind of in the June 2nd regular ceremony, even though that's not what you prefer.
Right, so we will do whatever we need to do.
Okay.
This is Howard, real quick. I know that we had worked together on these to try to create a level of consistency, but if indeed the board was willing to support the fact that they would go with option A, and if option A didn't work, you know, they would then be able to skip straight to option C. They could do that, and then, as Julie indicated, they would have the ability to conduct that ceremony on what would have been their normal promotion date. And I think that's fine. Not sure, Jennifer, is that what you would, or what your group would prefer to do as well, or would the two schools be somewhat different in that regard?
No, that is surprisingly, that is actually what my group preferred to do as well. And my group met the day before Julie's group did. So we did not even have any of those other pieces. We had just looked at, in the memorandum, of trying to create some consistency between what the high school had mapped out on their A through Ds, and just reorganized ours a little within how the high school had theirs ending with the virtual. We wanted to move ours to the virtual ending so it would look consistent for the board to view and to see within that order of options, not necessarily the order of selection from the committee.
So, President Malio, based on that, what I would recommend is that it maybe that Susan, I think, had brought it up earlier, that she might make a motion where you really do away with option B for promotion, and you basically go from A to C, which C would become the new B. So that is definitely an option that that could be exercised if indeed the board wanted to go in that direction.
Okay,
Well,
I have a question.
Go ahead, Sandy.
We're talking the 19th and the 20th of doing the virtual. Am I following this correctly, the 19th and the 20th?
No, so the 19th and 20th would be their regular ceremony, Sandy. So the 19th, I think, is festival. The 20th is Vulture Peak. If they can't have a regular ceremony, then the 21st is when they would release their virtual ceremony and hold their outdoor appropriate activity as well.
Okay, because it's like, okay, this is the 21st. This is after the 19th and the 20th. So, okay.
It's Right, it's on the Thursday rather than on Tuesday.
Okay, and that's why I had asked earlier what date, and, okay, that's all right. Go ahead.
Well, I agree. Dr. Carlson, you had a great point there. And Susan, well, everybody came up with this. I really believe that as long as the committees from both schools independently had favored option C, I don't know why we would keep option B in there, but that's just my thought. I don't know why it would be in there.
So, Julie and Jennifer, based on the conversations here, are you okay with us removing option B from our approval? I just want to get your confirmation that would be all right if we change it.
It would be, I know it would be all right with my committee.
This is Jennifer, and I also know it would be acceptable with my committee as well.
Well, one thing, Susan, that was a great question, and it's a good idea to clean it up. But just to reiterate on this motion that we would do on this actual piece would be if we chose to vote in favor of it, we as a board would be giving the full power to pick their favorite option. We'd be giving that to the administration and to the superintendent so they could pick which option each individual school wanted to do. So I just wanted to clarify that. We aren't saying, okay, we're doing option B. That's what we're giving them the power to do if we vote in favor of that.
That's great. Thanks, Joe.
Okay.
And
Just wanted to help.
Alio, let me just clarify that based on, this conversation, I think that is one of the benefits of being able to discuss these issues. But based on the conversation, then we would, or at least I would, and I think you heard from the principals as well, that for promotion, we would move or remove, I should say, option B, and you'd have option A and option C. The only difference, and I think something that the board does need to act on, is that May 4th modification, both in the high school plan and in the promotion plans, because we had indicated April 30th, but that needs to be moved to May 4th.
Great. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So we would need to alter this motion, in other words, to clarify the date of May 4th in place of April 30th. And then by us taking or agreeing to take out option B, it'd be pretty clean cut what the promotion ceremonies would look like then. Is that what you're saying, Dr. Carlson?
That is correct. And so again, I realize that, we will have to react to whatever guidance comes out, but we would have the flexibility to do so. And like you indicated, we'd have a pretty clear picture as to what this would look like, at least at the middle school.
Okay. All right. So does anybody from the board have any other questions or comments to make a recommendation? Anybody else? All right, go ahead.
I can go ahead and make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the Wickenburg High School graduation and 8th grade promotion plan options as we discussed with the changes for May 4th to be the next decision date, and also to remove option B for the promotion ceremonies, and grant authorization to the superintendent and the administration to select the options for the graduation and promotion ceremonies.
Perfect.
Mr. Ron, I'll second.
No, you forgot the date on the high school.
No.
No, what do you mean, Sandy? She said
When she said change the date, she said the 8th grade promotion date as instead of April 30th to May 4th, but we also need to say we have to have that date for the high school.
I did say for both,
Okay,
but-
I didn't hear you say that, sorry.
Okay. All right, so we've got a motion by Susan and we've got a second by Ron. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries unanimous. Thanks, everybody. That was some great dialogue. Thank you, principals. We really appreciate you doing this, and hopefully we don't ever have to repeat this kind of a meeting.
Hey, Joe,
Yeah.
this is Ron. There was just one thing I wanted to mention, and I don't know if Mark has thought of this or not, but I was discussing with some people about they were asking about what was going to happen in graduation and all that kind of stuff, and I was telling them kind of, well, we had some different options going, and a couple of women said, well, I would miss the yearbook signing more than I would have missed my graduation. So I don't know if that would ever thought of or anything like that, but evidently, particularly for the girls, that must be a big thing.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
All right. Item number 5, items for future agenda. All right. How about the announcements in the calendar? Everybody has seen those. And how about if we hit the item number 6? My favorite part.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we got Sandy making a motion, Susan second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. This meeting is now adjourned at 6:18. I appreciate everybody's time and great dialogue. And again, thank you, principals. And thank you, Director Orlick, for taking this and helping us get it out to the public.
Yes, thank
Everybody
you,
have a
guys.
good night.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Okay, bye
Thank you
now.
very much. Bye-bye.